Tonight, Thanksgiving, behind the walls of prisons under siege, among the millions of homeless in America, for a man brought back from the dead and floating above the sidewalks of New York.
From the Independent News, this is USA Tonight with Brad Holbrook.
Good evening. Some hopeful signs this Thanksgiving night that negotiators and Cuban inmates are inching closer to an end of takeovers at 2 prisons. More than 2,000 inmates continue to hold a total of 122 hostages at prisons in Oakdale, Louisiana and Atlanta, Georgia. Tonight in Atlanta, there are reports of face-to-face talks between prisoner representatives and experts working for the Justice Department. Earlier in the day, about 39 Cuban inmates asked to be transferred out of the Atlanta prison. And while families of the hostages and relatives of the inmates were served up holiday dinners at separate sites, they shared feelings of frustration and fear.
It ruins it. I'm grateful that he's alive, and I wish, if he's looking, I want him to know I love him and we're here for him, but it just ruins it. I want him to come home.
In Oakdale, Louisiana, yellow ribbons were tied outside a church where services were held for the hostages today. Meanwhile, the Cuban inmates are said to be mulling over a government offer. That offer came following a list of 7 demands made by the Cuban inmates late last night. There's no word on the specifics of either proposal. Earlier in the day, Attorney General Edwin Meese did make a conference call to the families of the hostages, offering hope and a promise not to risk the lives of their loved ones. There's word out of Beirut tonight that the pro-Iranian group holding hostages in Lebanon will release 2 French hostages in the next 24 hours. In a statement delivered to a Beirut newspaper, the Revolutionary Justice Organization says the French government, quote, is currently displaying some positive indications, end quote. It does not elaborate. There are 22 people being held somewhere in Lebanon. 8 of them are Americans. For thousands of Americans here at home, today is no holiday from the struggle to survive. For them, a day of giving thanks only heightens the despair. They are the nation's homeless. As Jeff Kamen reports, a growing number are now children, for whom daily life is filled with danger and desperation.
I have felt like going to jump off of a bridge, but I wouldn't do that because my children need me.
Like thousands of other Americans, Adrienne Taylor and her 4 children are on the brink of being homeless this Thanksgiving night. Forced out of their apartment by a 42% rent increase, they have taken temporary refuge in her mother's small apartment. This would have been her alternative, a hotel used by the city government as a temporary shelter for families. But police and residents say this place, like so many shelters, is plagued with violence and drugs. Families, most of them single parent, are the fastest growing group among the homeless, making up about 40% of the total. According to public officials and voluntary agencies reporting to the National Coalition for the Homeless, there has been a 25% overall increase in homelessness in our country since last Thanksgiving, with a total estimated as high as 3 million.
Most of them are working, trying to work, looking for work, have worked, and try to make their way. But the economy is such that they can't make their way.
As more and more Americans became afflicted with homelessness and President Reagan maintained his distance from the problem, Congress finally acted. It authorized about $1 billion in aid to America's homeless citizens. But in the environment of budget cuts, only $355 million was actually appropriated, boiling down to about $150 for each homeless man, woman, and child. However, an expert on homelessness says more money is not the real issue.
We don't see them as human beings, and so we're content to step over their bodies and go about our business while they live and die under our feet.
Mitch Snyder's Community for Creative Nonviolence fed hundreds of homeless people Thanksgiving dinner outside the U.S. Capitol this afternoon. The charismatic Snyder wants to convince Congress to build 7.5 million new units of low-income housing and to fix up existing units. Up to 500,000 low-income apartments and houses were lost in the past year alone, both to abandonment and to gentrification. Meanwhile, the Reagan administration has gutted federally subsidized new housing for the poor by about 70%. Despite that, the administration's point man on homelessness says,
The homeless is a very important issue. It's a tragedy in this country. We are dealing with it. We are attempting to solve the problem.
President Reagan once described the men and women who wander the streets as homeless by choice. About 1 out of every 3 homeless Americans is mentally ill.
Basically what you have is you have people who at one time were treated in mental hospitals on medications, responding to the medications, then left the mental hospital, stopped taking their medication, and now are not competent anymore. And because the laws are written the way they're written, we cannot mandate that they have to go back on their medication until they become overtly dangerous to themselves or others.
A new analysis of single men and women living in shelters shows that only 37% are capable of living on their own. 63% are so impaired by mental disease, alcoholism, or drugs that they are incapable of living normal lives. It was a warm Thanksgiving, but the deadly cold is on its way, and experts warn that many homeless will die on the streets of the nation. Jeff Kamen in Washington.
Thousands are homeless in the Philippines tonight after a devastating punch from Typhoon Nina. The powerful storm slamming into the country's midsection today, rampaging across 4 provinces. At least 270 people were killed, 14,000 homes destroyed when the typhoon blasted ashore with gigantic waves and 127-mile-an-hour winds. 3 ships at sea were swept ashore during the storm. Some crewmen are reported missing. At last report, Nina was hundreds of miles at sea, severely weakened. Thanksgiving is a snowy affair this year in the mountainous areas of our western states. Parts of Colorado and Utah woke up to a foot of snow this morning. That storm causing major delays for holiday air travelers. In Utah, snowfall that began yesterday touched off a 40-car pileup on a busy highway last night. More than 20 people were hurt. The Weather Service says that by tomorrow, more than 18 inches of snow will cover the southern and central Rockies. Still ahead on USA Tonight, the dangers of your neighborhood shopping mall. And later, what's wrong with Kermit the Frog?
USA Tonight, brought to you by American Express.
Why are we having a parade today?
Because it's Thanksgiving.
Right.
USA Tonight's Business Report, brought to you by Citicorp.
Well, there isn't much holiday cheer among the nation's retailers tonight. The forecast for the Christmas shopping season range from gloomy to lousy. The pessimism stemming from the stock market crash and somewhat sluggish catalog sales, which are usually at a peak at this time. The Christmas season is crucial for many stores because many of them make half their annual sales then. Tomorrow is traditionally the busiest shopping day of the season, but analysts predict most Americans will wait till the last minute to buy their gifts. Stores are not the only ones eagerly awaiting your holiday shopping. For criminals, the pre-Christmas season is a great time to get exactly what they want for the holidays, your cash and your valuables. Dave Willingham reports.
The sights and sounds and even the smells of the season are waiting at your nearby shopping mall. Another way to help you get into the festive feeling of the holiday. Also waiting in all too many cases, crimes of the times, mall crimes.
In the last week, we had 18 cars stolen. We had close to $450,000 worth of merchandise taken from vehicles. We had 7 assaults in the shopping centers. In total amounts that were lost, maybe close to $500,000.
No, I just don't feel safe anywhere anymore, especially shopping in the mall.
In Chief Delaney's town, a suburb of New York, mall crime accounts for 90% of the police workload. One mall in Detroit logged more than 3 violent crimes per day in 1985. Here in Miami, there's a steady stream of theft with occasional abductions, rapes, and assaults.
The problem is that the mall is such a large gathering place for so many people within a restricted period of time during their business hours that it becomes somewhat of a shopping center for our criminal element also.
The suburban shopping mall has become something of a Main Street USA. It's a place where we bring that at-home, comfortable feeling. And it's exactly that off-guard condition that the mall criminal likes to prey on.
If you walk into a situation and you think it's fine, then you're not really on guard. You're not in your own mind a victim or a potential victim.
Delaney says professional criminals are finding the off-guard mall attitude to their liking. A high-profit, low-risk arena for crime. And he says they're striking in groups.
They can hit a car, open the car, get into the car, take the radio in less than a minute. To me, that's a learned profession.
This is a person who's entirely too rare in malls, charges Delaney. He says management is reluctant to spend the dollars necessary to provide adequate security. But managers say customers have to do their part as well.
Safety is a two-sided responsibility, both the part that we do and also the part that the customer needs to do by being alert, like you would any other time of the year, more so at this time.
At this time, it becomes more of a three-way play, with police across the country beefing up mall patrol. Here in the Miami area, Dade Metro Police use a computer system to quickly profile mall crime patterns and put officers where the problems are, with a high visibility.
We want to create an air of every time you look around there's a policeman.
According to Dade Police, their program called Holiday Watch held mall crime last December to levels normal for the rest of the year. But police reiterate, shoppers have to do their part, be alert, and use common sense.
If you're going to go shopping, be careful, you may get mauled.
This is Dave Willingham in Miami.
And up next on the Health Beat, giving thanks for life itself from a man brought back from death.
What does Thanksgiving mean?
USA Tonight's Health Beat, brought to you by Anacin 3.
Of all the things to be thankful for this holiday, the most important is the gift of life. Medical advances have added years to the lives of many people, but sometimes help comes too late. We got a grim reminder of that yesterday with the sudden death of Chicago Mayor Harold Washington. On the Health Beat tonight, Marvin Scott reports on a new device that can stop heart attacks before they happen.
As they were working on me, I went out. I went dead. I went. And I saw myself flying. I'm flying with the angels up in the sky. It was so beautiful. But then, all of a sudden, I heard a guy say, he's coming back.
Frank Pasquale is among the estimated 400,000 people a year who experience sudden death syndrome from heart failure. Only 1/3 survive because doctors get to them in time with shock therapy to get their hearts going again. But even greater shock for many is living with the reality that it is likely to happen again.
The heavy pressure on your mind all the time, that you could be near death any time of the day, night.
A victim of one major heart attack, 46-year-old Ed Fitzgerald is considered high risk for another. But his chances for survival are excellent because of this device, a miniaturized defibrillator surgically implanted in his chest to automatically jolt his heart back into action when the normal rhythm fails.
This is an adaptation of some of the pacemaker technology that exists. Basically has miniaturized sensing circuitry and listens at all times to the heartbeat and can discern the difference between a normal heartbeat and this malfunctioning heartbeat, which can lead to death, and can treat that malfunction by delivering a shock or an impulse to the heart.
Long Island Jewish Medical Center in suburban New York is one of a growing number of hospitals nationwide that has received FDA approval to implant the defibrillator. 6 days after his implant, Ed Fitzgerald is given a routine test to make sure the device works and to give the patient an idea of just what to expect when it's activated.
Charging and activated. Okay, all right. What did that feel like to you? How do you describe that?
Like getting hit, with something like a punch or a good hard kick in the chest or something.
So at least I feel a little safer, that I'll be able to, go out and do things. Thank God all this time he's been watching all this.
The implantation procedure is costly, initially about $18,000 plus hospital costs. As of now, replacement every 3 years costs another $14,000. But for 67-year-old Frank Pasquale and his family, it was an expense that gives them a lot to be thankful for this Thanksgiving.
I'm eating, I'm walking, I'm seeing, I hear. It's a beautiful second life that I came out. If it wasn't for the technology of today, I wouldn't have been here today.
Doctors expect the technology of defibrillators to improve in the next couple of years and that they will be used much more widely throughout the country. But at the moment, it is a form of therapy that simply was not available before. And in that, they find a great degree of optimism simply in the fact that with this device,
They figure they can save in excess of 50,000 lives each and every year. At Long Island Jewish Medical Center in New York, this is Marvin Scott reporting.
USA Tonight's Health Beat was brought to you by Anacin 3.
A memorial was held today for Chicago Mayor Harold Washington, who died yesterday following a massive heart attack. As Christine Negroni reports, Chicago politicians are already jockeying for position just a day after the sudden loss.
Will line stay beginning Friday at 4 on the first floor of City Hall in the Rotunda. The body will remain for public viewing until Sunday, November 29th at midnight.
Sadness was a common sentiment today as the reality of Washington's death hit his friends and colleagues. In a private ceremony this morning, David Orr was sworn in as acting mayor. Then, under funeral bunting in the city council chambers, Orr told reporters he would not be a candidate for interim mayor.
My colleagues have been meeting, mainly trying to discuss the best way to mourn our great mayor. Obviously, political considerations will also be taking place.
I don't believe it's appropriate to speak in political terms at this time. The appropriate response, I think, has to be that we want to mourn this great loss. I'm not naive. I recognize that people have been speculating all along, but I simply don't want to add my voice to that speculation.
As he made his last public appearance yesterday, Washington was accompanied by Tim Evans, the late mayor's floor leader and advisor. Evans is one of the 2 aldermen expected to be a candidate for council election as interim mayor. Eugene Sawyer, a longtime Democratic Party regular, is another.
It's a race between those 2 individuals from my vantage point, and we're going to see who emerges. Now they're going to be tested in terms of how they can rally the votes around them.
Alderman Richard Mell is also looking for consideration, though few aldermen give him a chance. Several say the mayor's successor must be a black.
It's a very fluid situation, and I think that there are people out there who, in fact, may well be candidates.
So while all the aldermen insist that speculation as to Washington's successor is inappropriate now, it is clear that before the next meeting of aldermen here, there will be plenty of politicking going on. I'm Christine Negroni, WGN News.
This year, as in every year, Thanksgiving spells tragedy for some people while others celebrate the holiday. In Seat Pleasant, Maryland, near Washington, flames engulfed the wood frame house early today, the fire killing 6 children, ages 9 months to 5 years. All had become trapped by the intense flames and smoke in 2 upstairs bedrooms. 8 other people in the house at the time escaped, 5 of them suffering minor injuries. The cause of the fire is under investigation.
USA Tonight, brought to you by Kellogg's Nutri-Grain Cereals.
On this Thanksgiving Day in Fremont, Nebraska, Lola Lehman gave away all 1,000 quarts of her home canned fruits and vegetables. In Plymouth, Massachusetts, a restaurant featuring Pilgrim recipes sold out for the 2nd day in a row. From Bangor, Maine to San Diego, there have been celebrations of thanks given in private prayer and public joy. But the largest gathering of the American tribe by far came on Manhattan Island. Strike up the band.
The calendar may say this was the 61st annual Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade. But for a lot of big and little people along the route, this was a first.
I can't believe how big the floats are. They're excellent. The balloons and everything, they're fabulous.
My first time seeing it live, and I'm really glad I came.
Worth whatever it took to get here?
That's right. We were up at 4 o'clock this morning, and it's worth every minute of it.
Do you know what the parade is for?
For turkeys.
Not just turkeys, but also a frog, and a woodpecker, and a whale, and one slightly rambunctious cat.
Is Garfield behaving for you today? No, he's going crazy. As a matter of fact, before we got him tangled in the tree in Central Park, but I think he might be okay now that we're away from the tree zone.
No wonder Garfield gave his handlers a tough time. He's the largest balloon in the parade. It takes almost 19,000 cubic feet of helium to get him off the ground. The only casualty in today's extravaganza, Kermit the Frog. One of his arms shriveled, but he did stay aloft. Aside from the animals and the celebrities and the clowns, what else was in the parade?
Raisins.
Raisins? The kid's right. There were raisins. The Macy's Parade is the largest in the nation, featuring 10 giant balloons, 20 floats, and 13 marching bands from around the country. Millions viewed from the sidewalks, with tens of millions more watching at home. You might think that with all the glitter, parade goers would forget the reason behind this celebration. Not so. What's Thanksgiving mean?
To give thanks to everything we have. Thanks for the stuff that God gave us.
What are you thankful for?
My dinner.
Hi, Mom and Dad. I love you. Hi, everyone. Happy Thanksgiving.
Where are you from?
Boise, Idaho.
If these folks think they have a lot to be thankful for today, let's not forget what holiday is coming up next. In New York, I'm Karen Hasby.
And that is USA Tonight. I'm Brad Holbrook. Thanks very much for being with us. Hope you had lots to be thankful for today and that your holiday was a good one. We hope to see you back here tomorrow night. Good night.
Tomorrow at 7:30 on TV 53, the ice gets hot when the Penguins meet Washington in exciting hockey action on WPGH, your super movie station. Now stay tuned for The Love Connection, next on WPGH, your super movie station.